This is David Kurtz for TPM Media with MSNBC's Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough. You were playing Phil Donahue today.
I was.
As you made your way around.
Yes.
We had a panel discussion here sponsored by the Huffington Post on new media, and there was a lot of discussion about the vitriol on the web and the effect that might have in hampering the reliability of news that people get on the web. You particularly were concerned about it. What do you see as the big drawback?
Well, there are drawbacks and there are also good aspects to it as well. But I think, along our careers, we both have been hurt by complete lies that have appeared on the internet in some way, shape, or form. So at least I take it personally sometimes when it affects your reality. And there are jobs that have been lost because of what people say and how it spreads, and often it being untrue. And I think this anonymity that happens on the internet with people just spewing out misinformation is really dangerous. Having said that, there are a lot more people out there watching what's going on, and there's a lot of good that's come out of it as well. The question is, how do we bring this all together?
Certainly more good than bad. I mean,
you talked about
more positive.
It really kind of making you not want to make a run for Senate in Florida.
Right. Well, and I wasn't going to do it anyway, but I'll tell you that it made it very easy 5 or 6 hours after the word got out that the Republicans were asking me to go out there, just seeing lies, just unbelievably staggering lies, not on mainstream sites, but on well-traveled sites, and you just sit there going, boy, it wasn't like this back when I was in 2001. But, I think Ariana has talked about it, and others are talking about how they're starting to get a screening process to it. And the thing is, there's not an ideological tact here. It's the extreme right wing and the extreme left wing that gets on there and just says some genuinely hateful things. And it's not just nationally. I mean, it's in my local paper in Pensacola. It's in Mika's local paper in Bronxville.
And
it's everywhere.
They don't have to follow the rules. And that's frightening, too, because as old media tries to follow all the rules, and get it wrong often at times, too, but there is this sort of lawlessness, journalistic lawlessness that happens on the internet, which I think is extremely dangerous.
Shifting gears a little bit to the politics of this convention, particularly the vice presidential pick, what are you hearing from your former Republican colleagues and Republican circles that you know about the pick? Are people confused? Are they excited? Or?
Not the base, not Republicans. They just love her. For the past 4 or 5 days, I've had people come up to me thrilled. They're like my mother, who is more conservative than Genghis Khan, is always sort of a leading indicator of how conservatives are going to go in America. And she called me up just laughing. Like, we got him. Wow. We got the secret pick. She was in an igloo in Alaska. We dragged her out. And no, my mother, very conservative. She reads and I think she's responsible for half of the hate traffic on the right. She is...
so the base likes her.
The base loves her.
So contrast that with who, then? You suggested maybe others don't.
The base, it's important to get people out. It's important for the base to like her. But at the same time, the question is, how do swing voters, how do suburban moms in Montgomery County outside of Philadelphia or Bucks County outside of Philadelphia, how are they going to respond to that? What about Macomb County in Michigan? A swing county that really matters every 4 years. What about the Horseshoe in Ohio? How are they going to respond to her?
And what do you think
matters?
What do you think are the obstacles she faces with those voters?
I think that it's dangerous for Republicans to believe that people are going to vote for her because of her ideology. I think it's dangerous for Democrats to think people are going to vote against her because of her ideology. I think it's going to be one of those gut things where they see her standing next to Biden, and they're going to figure out whether she can
hold her own or not. Right.
Whether she's worthy of being a heartbeat away from the president, and whether they like her more than Biden. I will tell you that Joe Biden would have much rather debated a Mitt Romney. He would have much rather debated even a Joe Lieberman. That would have been easier than debating Sarah Palin.
Because you've got the subtext to this.
She's an unknown. She's a southpaw. She goes in there. She's got an unorthodox style. She took on Frank Murkowski, who was one of the most entrenched politicians in America up in Alaska. Took on Ted Stevens. Stevens. She's a fighter. She's been underestimated. And I will tell you, she will not sneak up on Biden or Obama or the Obama camp. Axelrod will have Biden ready. At the same time, the question is, how's she going to perform? It is a complete question mark. It's kind of like, remember when Lieberman debated Cheney, and we were all so sure in Cleveland in 2004. Everybody was sure that Edwards.
Yeah.
Everybody was sure that Edwards was going to do a better job than Cheney. Cheney took care of him. And Lieberman in 2000, the same thing. We were sure that Cheney was going to do just a horrific job, and he ended up just sort of quietly with that crooked smile and a couple of, offhanded comments about sending Joe Lieberman back into the private sector. He won the debate. You never know how that stuff's going to shake out.
Quick question on coverage. What's the challenge for covering these conventions for you guys, and what's different about covering Denver versus here in St. Paul?
Well, actually, they're so different, it's not hard. I mean, there's a different storyline here, and this hurricane adds into it, a hurricane which is dying down, but it's sort of thrown the whole thing up in the air a little bit, and the Republicans are all running around trying to sort of refocus and show that they can respond, and there are different storylines. And now that Sarah Palin is in the picture, there's a historic storyline as well, which actually helps us even out our coverage, because I think we grapple with covering Barack Obama too much because there's two things going on. There's a presidential race. There's also this hot story about history being made. And I think often we get accused of being biased when we're just covering the story. And now we have another one.
Exactly. And, like, for instance, Time Magazine has been attacked for having Barack Obama on the cover 8 times, I think, and McCain twice. Guess what? If I'm the editor of Time Magazine and I see every time I put Barack Obama on the cover, I break records, I'm putting Barack Obama on the cover of the magazine.
That's not the only reason he's doing it.
The Republicans, no, I'm not saying that's why, but it's certainly compelling.
The other reason is that it's a big story. It's history. It's an African American who's won the Democratic nomination. You cover it.
Yeah, well,
you cover it.
Well, but I think, again, Sarah Palin's going to allow them to put her on the cover quite a lot, too. And again, that's certainly not a knock at Time Magazine. You could say the same thing about Newsweek, NBC, ABC, CBS. It's just a fascinating story. But Republicans have countered with one of their own. I mean, she shoots assault weapons. She guts grizzly bears. I mean, lifetime NRA member. Yeah, and now, and now her daughter is pregnant. It's taking on a Lifetime movie aspect.
Right. The first interview they did, I guess, was with People magazine, which I thought was an interesting choice. But what do you make of the pregnancy situation? And I mean, is there any political dynamic to that?
There's really not, and there's not because we all have heard that story. It's kind of like when somebody goes through depression or some bipolar issue or even when somebody has problems with substance abuse. Everybody in their family's dealt with that, and you just feel sympathetic, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican. So I don't think so. I think, and again, the Obama campaign, they're so brilliant. They are not going to go there.
They're not going there, but
and they're going to discourage allies to go there.
Don't you think it might even help with the pro-life voters? It couldn't hurt.
That she's having the baby
and a daughter who has unfortunately gotten pregnant, or maybe ultimately, fortunately, they look at life in this family as extremely vital, no matter how it's come into the world and what the circumstances
Down
are.
Syndrome,
exactly.
Or whether it's
two major decisions in one family to have a baby instead of to choose the easier way out.
It's certainly a lot better when you're trying to convince women in Philadelphia suburbs that that you live what you say, than having some fat 55-year-old white guy saying teenage girls, should have their babies.
On that note, this is Morning Joe's duo, Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough. David Kurtz for TPM Media.